Former President Goodluck Jonathan has dropped a statement that is shaking the political space in Nigeria right now. He said that during his time as president, Boko Haram once brought the name of Muhammadu Buhari forward as the person they wanted to represent them in peace talks with government. This is a very strong revelation because when we hear it, the first thing that comes to mind is, how possible is that? How can insurgents pick a former head of state as their negotiator? And why would they do that? These are the questions making people talk and argue across the country. Please, as you are listening, make sure you like this video and subscribe so you don't miss the next updates, because we go deeper into matters that others don't break down this way. Jonathan shared this story during the launch of a book written by General Lucky Iribor, the former Chief of Defense Staff. At that event, Jonathan opened up on how the insurgency tested his government, how different committees were set up to seek peace, and how shocking it was when he heard that Boko Haram brought Buhari's name as someone they trusted to represent them. Jonathan said at that moment he even thought, maybe if Buhari becomes president in the future, then peace will come, since Boko Haram seemed to respect him. But according to Jonathan, that hope did not work out because the insurgency continued even after Buhari came into office. Now, this is where it gets interesting, and I want you to drop your thoughts in the comment section. Do you think Boko Haram really saw Buhari as someone they could trust? Or do you think Jonathan is saying this now for another reason? Like this video now if you are enjoying the gist, and don't forget to subscribe so you will always get our analysis first. Jonathan also used that stage to recall the painful memory of the Chibok schoolgirl's abduction in 2014. He said that particular incident will remain a scar on his heart until the day he dies. That statement was very emotional, and you could feel the weight of responsibility that comes with leaderships. For many Nigerians, the abduction was the moment the world's eyes turned strongly on Nigeria, and the government's handling of it became a major campaign issue in 2015. Now imagine, years later, the former president still carrying that pain. It shows you how deep national events can cut into the heart of a leader. My people, if you understand the weight of this gist, just hit that like button now, because we are still going far with it. Now, Jonathan's claim did not just go unanswered. Garba Shehu, who served as spokesperson to Buhari, quickly came out to say this story is not true. He said Jonathan's statement is false and that Boko Haram never trusted Buhari. In fact, they targeted him. He reminded people that Buhari was once attacked in Kaduna in 2014, and that clearly shows the group saw him as an enemy, not a friend. So you see, we have two big voices giving different accounts. One former president recalling what he was told in office, and another senior aide defending the reputation of his boss. This is why the matter is hot now, because Nigerians are wondering who is saying the truth and who is twisting the story. Drop your opinion in the comments, because this is one gist that needs everyone's voice. Don't forget, like this video and subscribe so we keep bringing it straight to you. Let us take a step back to understand this whole negotiation matter. Over the years, Nigerian governments tried so many strategies against Boko Haram. There were military offensives, there were amnesty-style programs, there were committees set up to reach out, and there were community engagements too. Jonathan said they looked at what happened with the Niger Delta militants in the 2000s, when amnesty and reintegration worked to calm the situation. But Boko Haram was not the same kind of group. They had different factions, they had foreign backing, they had radical ideologies that made dialogue very difficult. This was part of Jonathan's point that the insurgency was not something poverty alone could explain. It was more complicated than that. And this is why, even when Buhari later came into power, the problem did not just disappear. Nigerians hoped for quick peace, but the war dragged on. If you are following the flow of this gist, please smash the like button right now and don't forget to subscribe for more. Now, let's talk about the political angle. Whenever a former president speaks, especially when elections are not too far, people will always suspect there is politics inside. Garba Shehu even said maybe Jonathan is saying this now to polish his image ahead of 2027. Is that possible? We can't say for sure, but what we know is that Nigerian politics is always about timing. Statements that look like history lessons can also carry political weight. That is why this story is not just about Boko Haram history, but also about the future. I want to ask you watching now, do you think Jonathan is simply sharing his truth from that period? Or do you think he is playing a political card? Let me know in the comments, and while you are at it, remember to like this video and subscribe so that you will never miss our future breakdowns. Let me also remind us of the seriousness of what Boko Haram has caused in this country. Thousands of lives lost, millions displaced, children growing up without parents, families still waiting for news of their daughters. The humanitarian crisis is still there, so when leaders start telling stories of how negotiations were attempted or who was nominated, we must always bring the discussion back to the victims. It's not only...
And one of the major scars on my government, and it will be on my face, and like Bishop Cook has said, no plastic or cosmetic surgeon can remove it, is the issue of the Chibok girls. It's a scar that I will die with. But later on, people may know a little more details. And that's also to do with the Boko Haram. What do they really want? But you will never get the full story of the Boko Haram. Because I was there. The Boko Haram started 2009 when I was the vice president to late Yaradua. Of course, I took over 2010 for 5 years, battling with the Boko Haram until I left. I thought that immediately I leave, within a reasonable time, late General Buhari was going to wipe them out, but till today, the Boko Haram is still there. So the issue of Boko Haram is a little more complex than sometimes we can conjecture. Then we had issues in the Niger Delta. And when I became the vice president, one of the major things I did was to visit the most dangerous camp of the militants in the Niger Delta. I remember when we flew down to Warri, by the time we got to the waterfront to take boats to that camp, they sent information to us that anybody following me must not carry a weapon. My ADC, my CSO, that nobody should carry a weapon. In fact, the Commissioner of Police of Delta State said, Vice President, no, you will not go there. The State Director of SSS to say, no, I will not go. I told them I will go. So even my officers, my ADC, my CSO and so on, they handed over their guns to the CP and the SDS of Delta State. And none of them carried weapons. When we landed at the camp, these boys lying up one this way, one road this way, with their assault rifles, just facing the bush, not even looking at my direction as if there was nothing happening. We marched through them, we passed through them, sorry. We had a meeting with their leaders and so on. We had to spend almost 1 hour there. When we came back, that was the beginning of solving the Boko Haram, the Niger Delta crisis. And we were able to get through. At least now there's a reasonable pace in the Niger Delta. But if you look at the weapons they use and you value the weapons, then you know that these are not hungry people.
Only about who said what, but about how Nigeria as a nation should learn from these scars and prevent such tragedies from happening again. If you believe victims should be at the center of the story, hit the like button now and show your support. Now let's think about what Jonathan's revelation teaches us. If it is true that Boko Haram once nominated Buhari, then it means insurgent groups sometimes make very unexpected political moves. If it is not true, then it means we must be careful when former leaders recall sensitive events, because memories can be selective, or sometimes used to send signals. Either way, journalists must keep digging for facts. Which committee was it? Who was in the room? Are there documents? Those are the questions that can help us separate memory from evidence. That is why I always tell you, like this video, subscribe and stay engaged, because history needs all of us paying attention. And finally, let me bring this home. We are left with a statement from Jonathan, a denial from Buhari's camp, and a lot of Nigerians asking questions. The truth might be buried in records, in testimonies of officials who served on those committees, or in archives yet to be opened. Until then, what we can do is keep talking, keep questioning, and keep remembering the lives that were affected by this insurgency. And that is why your voice in the comment section matters. Your opinion is part of the bigger national conversation. So please, before you leave, like this video, subscribe to this channel, and share this gist with someone who follows Nigerian politics. So let's look at this matter deeper. When Jonathan spoke, he was not just throwing words. He was standing in front of military leaders, political leaders, and journalists. He knew every sentence would make headlines. That is why when he mentioned that Boko Haram once wanted Buhari as a negotiator, it shocked the hall. People were surprised, some were nodding, some were shaking their heads. Because this is the kind of statement that touches on trust, politics, and national history all at once. Viewers, if you are still with me, please click the like button now. It really helps this video reach more people, and also subscribe so you don't miss the next big gist. Now, to understand the weight of what Jonathan said, let us go back to 2014. That was the year of the Chibok abduction, when over 200 schoolgirls were taken. The entire world was shouting, "Bring back our girls." Michelle Obama held up that sign. Celebrities, presidents, activists, everyone was talking about Nigeria. For Jonathan, that was a nightmare. He said clearly at this book event that the abduction remains a scar on him. That word scar is very powerful. A scar never leaves your body. It's a permanent reminder of a wound. And Jonathan said this one, he will carry it till death. That shows the pain of leadership in such a crisis. If you are following me right now, please show support by liking this video and subscribing, because we always bring you the gist with context. After that abduction, Jonathan's government tried different ways to engage with the insurgents. He set up committees, he reached out through local leaders, and even brought in outsiders at some point. It was during one of these attempts that, according to him, the name of Buhari came up from the Boko Haram side. They said Buhari should lead their talks. Why? Maybe they saw him as a respected northern elder. Maybe they thought he was tough but honest. Or maybe they had other motives. That is the mystery that makes people debate today. Do you think Boko Haram trusted Buhari, or do you think it was a trap to create political confusion? Drop your thoughts in the comment section. Now let's talk about Buhari himself in this matter. Remember, before becoming president in 2015, Buhari was a retired general, former military ruler, and a man with a reputation for discipline. During the Jonathan years, opposition politicians often accused Jonathan of being weak on security. Buhari was presented as the tough man who would fix the Boko Haram crisis. That image was very strong in 2015 and helped him win the election. So when Jonathan now comes out years later to say these same Boko Haram people once nominated Buhari as their negotiator, it naturally shakes the narrative. It makes people ask, what was really happening behind the scenes? My people, if this gist is giving you value, don't forget to like and subscribe right now, because we always go deeper than the surface. Garba Shehu's rebuttal is also important here. He didn't just deny the story, he gave an example. He said Boko Haram once tried to kill Buhari in Kaduna. That was in 2014 when there was a bomb attack on Buhari's convoy. Shehu's point is clear. If the group wanted him dead, how could they also want him as negotiator? This is the kind of evidence that complicates Jonathan's statement. It shows that history is not black and white. It is full of gray areas. Maybe one faction of Boko Haram thought about Buhari, while another faction hated him. Or maybe someone was using Buhari's name without his knowledge. These are the kinds of questions historians must answer. Please, if you are still with me, hit that like button and subscribe so that you won't miss when we break down the next angle. Let me paint you a picture of how negotiations usually work with armed groups. In Niger Delta, militants wanted amnesty, training, jobs, and community development. The government offered them these things and peace returned to some level. But Boko Haram was different. They were not just fighting over oil money or neglect. They had an ideology, a belief system about creating their own rule. That is why negotiation was always complicated. Sometimes one side would say yes, then another side would spoil it. Sometimes you are talking with them today, and tomorrow they strike again. This is why Jonathan said the insurgency was not just about hunger or poverty. It was far more complex. Viewers, if you understand this complexity, please like this video right now and also subscribe so you can continue this journey with us. Now, when Jonathan said he hoped Buhari would solve the crisis since they once nominated him, that part reveals something about leadership expectations in Nigeria. Leaders often think that if you have personal connections or trust, maybe peace will be easier. Jonathan expected that because Boko Haram once mentioned Buhari, then his presidency might see them surrender. But as history showed, Buhari also faced the same hard wall. The war continued, thousands more died, and the problem spread into banditry and other forms of insecurity. What does this teach us? It teaches that insurgency is bigger than one person's image. It requires strategy, regional cooperation, and long-term investment in communities. If you want leaders to learn this lesson, type yes in the comments right now. And don't forget to like this video and subscribe. Let's also look at how Nigerians are reacting to this gist. Some people believe Jonathan because he was president and would know what was said inside government. Others say he is only speaking now because of politics and maybe to clean his name ahead of another election cycle. Some even say he is trying to remind Nigerians that he was not as weak as people said. Meanwhile, Buhari's supporters are defending him strongly, saying the story is false and unfair. This clash of opinions is why this gist is trending. My people, I want to ask you directly, who do you believe more in this matter? Jonathan's memory or Shehu's denial? Drop it in the comments, and while you are there, make sure you like and subscribe too. Finally, let's not forget the victims. Whenever leaders argue about who said what, we must bring the focus back to the people who suffered. The families of Chibok girls, the displaced communities in Borno, Adamawa, Yobe, the children growing up in IDP camps, these are the people whose lives carry the real scars. So while Jonathan and Buhari's camp debate, let us as citizens demand that current and future leaders focus on healing, rebuilding, and preventing another insurgency. That is the ultimate lesson here. If you agree with me, hit that like button now and subscribe so you can join us as we keep speaking truth for the people.